Yeah.
Well, it's 5 o'clock. I like to run meetings promptly.
Oh, okay.
I have to go home and help my son with his homework.
Oh, that's not fair.
Do you want to come do math?
No, that's not fair. Having a teacher help her son at home, he's got an unfair advantage. The other students.
Are we all set?
I have not heard from Jeff. Canales just called and said there's a bit of a family emergency that he's dealing with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, I'll call the meeting to order so we can get started promptly. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Board of Plattsburgh Municipal Lighting Department, March 31st, 5 o'clock to order. Roll call. Do I do a roll call? No.
I mean, you do.
I'll do roll call. Director Canales is excused. Director Kelly?
Here.
I am here. Director Talon?
I am here.
Director Bob? Here. Director Moore? I'm sure he'll be here, but he's not here yet. And Director Rosenquist?
I'm here.
Manager Tracy is here, and CFO Kluge.
Yeah, she only works part-time. So.
Okay, item number 1, minutes of the previous meetings. I don't read those resolutions, do I? I do? Okay. I've never done this before. Be it resolved that the minutes of the meeting of the PMLD board held on September 30th, 2021 are approved and placed on file among the public records in the MLD office. Motion, Councilor Kelly. Second. Councilor Bob.
Who's seconded?
Councilor Bob,
Oh,
second.
okay.
Is that Director Moore who just walked in?
I did.
Hello.
Can we just do an all in favor?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, carried. Item number 2, financial report presented by MLD manager William Tracy. First one you have is an internal report of financial standing as of February 2022.
Yeah, I think
Discussion.
you all see this the chart for the February.
Mhm.
We were slightly ahead on revenues. Expenditures was almost right behind us, and that's the reason for that. We had a big bill in February. We got the electric bill for January, and it was slightly over $2.5 million. So,
Why is
What-
that?
huh?
Why is that?
Because January was the coldest January in the last 3 years. The last cold January we had was 2019. So we had like 18 days below zero in that month. And then there was a lot more days that were single-digit days. On top of that, New York State raised the cost of the recs that we have to pay for. It was initially $23.79 per megawatt hour, and they raised it to $35 starting 1st of January. So that provided about 100,000 plus increase with the amount of kilowatt hours we had. We also had to buy a lot of supplemental power. Our load for January was 116.9 megawatts was our demand, and we used a little over 71 million kilowatt hours, which is quite a lot. Compared to January 2021, we only used 100.9 megawatts, and we only used a little bit over 56 billion. So you can see we used quite a bit of additional power that we had to buy to support that. Additionally, on top of that, the transmission usage charge went up considerably because it was so cold and the cost of electricity was skyrocketing. So the cost to transmit it, there was transmitted such large amounts. The losses were high, so we got charged for pretty high losses, probably a couple 100,000. But there's nothing we can do about that. That's based into their tariff that's approved by New York State. So right now we're recouping our funds. Most of that wound up in the PPAC charge, which is the difference between what the rates pay and the actual bill. So we should have all the money we laid out in February. Additionally, we should recover it by the end of April. There's a 2-month lag in that process.
Okay.
Other than that, it wasn't a bad month. If you go back further, you can see how the RECs and ZECs that New York State charges us based on the kilowatt hour usage has gone up considerably from the year before. Last January in 2021, it was almost $199,000. This year, it was almost $300,000 on the ZECs. On the RECs, last year was a little over $26,000. This year was almost $140,000. So you can see how the rates have gone up.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, due to the Clean Air Standard, they're only going to continue to go up from this point on.
They are gonna go up. New York
Yes.
State is already establishing themselves as a electricity-based state, and we'll be converting the majority of what we do to electric vehicle purchases, New York State wide. Not municipality on our side, but New York State will be purchasing.
Well, also RECs will increase considerably because they're right now auctioning, or I think they just finished auctioning, tier 4 RECs, which are for building wind farms and solar farms down in the New York City area, Rockland County, Westchester, Long Island. Once somebody builds, then they will then be collecting money on that so they can provide them supplemental money to help them operate. And of course, the old RECs are coming probably within the next 2 years or so. They just had the big sale off Montauk and off I can't think of the other part of Long Island, the Hamptons. So they will start building out there sometime in the next 2 to 3 years. Once the wind farms are built out there, we will also be having to pay supplemental charges for that power, even though we never use it or we'll never see it, because it's basically for downstate. The feeling is everybody in the state should contribute to it. So electric rates, as the mayor has indicated, will go up.
Well, what's included in that PPAC charge? Is that more than just the overages and the cost of electricity?
It includes any price increases that have occurred with the New York Power Authority. They have raised their demand charge. They haven't raised it lately, but a few years ago they were raising it almost every year. Also, when we had the last rate increase back in 2009, the Public Service Commission decided not to adjust it and include and figure into the rates the rate increases that had occurred earlier to 2009. They said the PPAC would still cover all that. Plus, it has the cost of the RECs and ZECs are in there too.
They're in there also?
They're in there also, yes.
Well, yeah, because that's gotten up to kind of what we're paying extra for, we're paying for crypto miners.
Well, that's not what it could have been, Counselor. They're getting a hefty bill at the end of this month, or I should say tomorrow, because their bills are they're on the industrial rate and they're read at the end of the month. So the PPAC for them will be a lot higher. It did go up because we did have to buy supplemental power in January. The residential community, when we have these real cold snaps, they jump pretty much. I mean, typically in the fall, they're using typically about 7 million kilowatt hours in a month. For January, they used a little bit over 25 million kilowatt hours. So you can see it almost jumped fourfold.
So what you're saying in wintertime, we really don't have any excess electricity. Like if we had more development, those overages would be even greater then, right?
That is correct. Basically, it's because of the electric heat. December, January, February, March, typically in the past have been months when we have to buy supplemental power. It just depends how cold it gets. The last 2 winters, pretty much we didn't have to buy any because the winters were fairly mild. Previous 2019, 2018, they were very cold, so we had to buy a lot during those winters. But yes, if we brought in a whole lot of industry, you probably would be buying supplemental power, not only in the wintertime, but probably depending on what the loads were, we could be buying it in other periods too. I mean, some of the municipals are buying supplemental power every month, year round, because they only get so much hydro. Plattsburgh, it was fortunate. It was the first one in line in the 1960s to sign up for the power coming out of Niagara. And out of the 50 odd municipals in the state of New York, we have the most hydropower. The nearest one, we get 103 megawatts. Next one to us, it's got 75 megawatts, which is Fairport and Jamestown. And from there, it just drops on down to the single digits. It's a very efficient town.
Something to keep in mind, I guess, in the future.
Well, if you want development, you're gonna use it up. We now have the cryptos in there, and they're using roughly 11 megawatts. We'll probably be using 12, 13 megawatts here shortly. There's a new one coming online, so.
Yeah, so they're back, right?
Well, we haven't had any.
Amen.
We haven't had any since the original two large ones showed up in 2018. But we have another one that started up last year.
That definitely has an effect on.
Yes. I mean, they don't provide hardly any jobs, they don't pay taxes, so basically they're using the resources, they pay for that. They complain about paying for it, but they pay for it. And that's all what you could say. I had a larger one a few months ago, wanted to develop its own tariff and tell it, it wanted to use our power, but tell us what it was willing to pay for it.
Nice try, huh?
Nice try. Yeah, I told
Kinda
them,
funny.
if you want to do that, go see NYSEG. Goodbye. But they were deadly serious. They're still hinting about it. So it's not a totally dead issue, but.
Bill, if they continue to buy power and we continue to develop, then, you know, the bottom line on that formula is that we will buy more supplemental power.
True, but I would think when we get to that point, if we were buying it every month, they would disappear. Because they're gonna go where they can pay next to nothing for it.
So we would pass on the supplemental charges. to
Right,
them.
well, we have right array. I used it again in January, February. I can't discuss the rates here with this, but we did use it when we bought the supplemental power. I mean, they basically drove us over big time.
And
If
that's-
they didn't exist, we would, January, we would probably only go over by about a megawatt. But we went over a lot more because of their existence.
Yeah.
So,
I wonder if something for discussion is to regulate them more than we already do.
that's a decision for the council. I can't, from the electric side of the house, I can't really do anything about them.
Yeah. We need to talk about that at some point, perhaps.
I mean, yeah, but you can do building codes or whatever, that's the city's prerogative.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Okay, maybe we can set up a meeting with the mayor's permission at some point in the future and talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that it's the only benefit that we see from crypto is that, the city's allocation of electricity, we want to charge 99.999% of it, never go over the 100. Otherwise, we go over the 100, then we're paying out of pocket.
Right.
The only benefit that I've seen to crypto is that they can use that much. And that brings in some revenues to the city, but at the same time, as we're seeing, it also pushes things over the top. And we kind of feel like we feel it a little bit, so. And then also, when you talk about development and development opportunities, and you say, hey, we've got this plot of property out here, and, if we did find an employer that used the same amount of electricity, but they had 75, 100 jobs, it'd be a different conversation for that electric usage, right? It'd be worth it.
as we talk about this, I'm thinking of the annexation that's about to happen and all that
That's-
property we're
that's-
hoping to develop.
It's in the back of our minds, right?
The electricity is a big draw, we
Yep.
hope, so.
And we're not even just talking about businesses growing out there, right? We're talking about that's residential opportunity that
Sure.
is easier to develop on a blank slate of property rather than trying to develop infill that we have in the city center and the more densely populated neighborhoods, right? But still, we talk about development in that area and how much energy consumption, electric consumption it would be to place 3, 4, 500,000 families out there.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, well, so our regular allotment is around 100 megawatt.
103. We get a little bit more because of a bar. Half a megawatt more. roughly.
Yeah, because I know some people that called me up, you know, their electric bill was $90 to $100 more this past month, and I know that was one of the reasons that, you know, it was a big thing for me locating in Plattsburgh, was the cheap electric, because the taxes are not favorable on their own merit, so that kind of offset.
When we
some
have
of
to buy the
what costs of living in
supplemental,
Plattsburgh.
we're being charged, well, we're being charged $3.75. So a little over, almost 4 cents, a little under 4 cents. Now, our agency, NIMBA, usually plans out energy purchases up to a year to 2 years in advance, based on what the market is doing. As soon as it drops, usually the summertime it drops, they lock in those prices and then they hedge them. Well, floor and ceiling. So if the price suddenly rises, we're reimbursed for that, or they're reimbursed. If it goes below the floor because the price dropped, then we have to pay more. I've never seen it go down the floor. It usually goes above the ceiling. So we do that. The New York Power Authority and the investor owns pretty much do not do that. In fact, well, we were charging our supplemental at a little less than 4 cents a kilowatt hour for the energy usage. New York Power Authority was charging 10.7 cents because they buy it on that day market. So whatever the price, the LBMB prices in the area where they need it is, which is the localized base marginal pricing, that's what the customer gets. And the other utilities too get it as well, do it that way. I remember a few years ago in 2014 when we had the big cold spell there, the vortex. There was complaints in the Albany area about National Grid because they were charging 39 cents a kilowatt hour. But that they were buying the power on that day market, so whatever the price was, that's what they were buying. They don't forecast ahead.
okay, anything, any other further discussion? Okay, be it resolved that the financial report as read is hereby ordered, received, and placed on file among the public records in the MLD office.
Motion.
Motion by the mayor, and second by Councilor Bob. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Any opposed? Adopted. Okay, item number 3. Departmental
Okay.
reports, go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
I got a list of work we've done in the last few months since the last meeting. The big one was the windstorm that hit us on December 10th, where we had power out in various parts of the city, and we had crews working 16-hour days to get that restored, and we got everybody back on by Monday evening. The worst area was Sanborn. That's not Sanborn, Olivetti, and that's the one we got last. So.
That was good.
It was all those spruce and pine trees that caused us the headaches.
And that ash tree that took out half that.
Yes, yeah. That
Which
did a
is,
lot.
I will say this, and you know, I'm not trying to throw any residents under the bus, but we've had an ash issue, a known ash issue for quite some time. And that was a private tree that took out 3 or 4 poles, which the city then had to turn around and pay for. I don't think that was fair. I don't know if there's no lever to get that money back, but I think that is something that our residents in this council should be made aware of, that there are still trees out there that are not, really should not be there. And as a result, that this tree was not taken care of, it did cause 3 or 4 days of power outages in one of our neighborhoods.
We had a case where quite a few years ago over Cumberland Avenue, there was a 75-foot pine tree that came across the street, stacked, I think 6 or 7 poles, ripped the services off 6 or 7 houses along that street. The homeowner, when we were out there looking at it, came out and said, "Oh, would you mind cutting this all up in my yard?" And I think my wife, it was the President's weekend in February. My wife and I are off on vacation. See ya. Yeah, probably leaving before the neighbors started talking to him. But like the mayor said, I just yesterday paid to have 4 pine trees removed in my backyard that were about 45, 50 feet tall. Got a little nervous with the windstorm in December. I said, time for them to go. So they all got chopped down at my expense. So.
Thank you.
The next page is just IE projects that we're funding and where they are. Some are completed, there's some in progress, like this project. Part of this was funded with IEP. And things are just moving along there. Do have a residential installation. We're gonna probably get that going in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's for the entire community and, you know, your constituents as well. So if you guys can spread the word on any channels or outlets that you all have about the resident.
Yeah, just don't.
What is
Just don't say it in public. He's trying to tell me.
Well, yeah, because last time somebody did, we got like 300
He said, "We'll tape
applications.
it."
And then we had to suspend it for like 4 or 5 years because we can't support that many. We can support 10.
We're talking in code, so I have no idea what's happening.
So,
Something residential, that's all I'm taking
Yeah.
away from this.
I'll explain.
Okay.
I have a whole bunch of people who want to.
What, really? No.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, oh my,
Submit their
what have I done?
application.
and that's about all I have.
Okay. Is that for A, B, and C? Is that for everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will note that we have started IBEW contract negotiations this week. Bill, myself, and Jackie Kelleher met to talk about some of the overarching structural concerns of the contract. Thanks for that feedback. We met with the union leadership earlier this week. Very positive, good start to the conversation. We feel that this one will go very well.
Good
And
news.
we'll give you updates as we progress along.
Okay, moving on to bid requests, item number 4A. Be it resolved in accordance with the requester for MLD Board approves MLD to advertise for bids throughout New York State. Contract using mini bids procedure for one Ford F-150 all-electric / hybrid pickup to replace a Chevy Tahoe that 19 years old with nearly 110,000 miles on the odometer and has a severe chassis body rusting issue. Want to give us anything else on that, or?
Well, there's 2 of them there for F-150s. They're replacing 2 Tahoes that were bought in the early 2000s. They were both approaching 19 and 18 years old. And unfortunately, the North Country is rough on vehicles, so and so forth. But the first one has almost 110,000. So what I am planning to do is to try to buy from Ford an all-electric one, and then a hybrid F-150 for the second one. If I can't get the all-electric, then I go both hybrid, try to get both of them. I can't get them, then I'm just gonna order regular F-150s.
Okay.
The big problem is the chips and steel and so forth, supply chain problems. Last year I couldn't get anything. hopefully doing this early enough this year, maybe we can. The third one is to replace a service line truck that is 17 years old, and we're doing quite a bit of maintenance to keep it running. We're looking to do like we did last year and get another hybrid version. In fact, we have one company is lending us a demo next week to try it out. It's going to be a smaller truck, so we can fit on driveways in the back. You know, it's a lot easier. The service truck we got now is smaller than the line truck, but it's still pretty wide. So getting it in some of these tight yards is difficult. We're hoping this will work better. We did get a demo truck last year for the regular line truck that was a hybrid, and the linemen loved it because you didn't have to have the diesel engine running all day long. So they weren't bringing that, and they could talk in normal voices because they didn't have to yell over the engine. Because when we drive the truck out to a site, we have to leave the diesel idling in order to provide power for the boom. The guys are up there working. Now, sometimes it shuts down and then starts back up again, but it is quite noisy, and it does put out a lot of fumes out the rear. So the hybrid battery version is a lot cleaner and environmentally friendlier than that setup. So we're looking to do it again. The next one is St. Lawrence 2, which is up on Tom Miller Road. We had last year we had a testing procedure done as required by the NERC people, which is the federal government. And we found that 3 of the differential relays up there were found to be time for replacement. They're quite old, and plus corrosion started to be an issue. And the company that did all the testing was one of their prime recommendations that we replace those. So we'll be looking to go out with a bid to replace these 3 relays. What we normally do is we buy them first. Once we get them, then we go out second phase, we get a contract to get a relay company come in and do the installation and do the commissioning test. So they can test and make sure they work. What these relays do is they protect the substation, the workers and the residents from high voltages. They sense them on the transmission lines coming into the substation, so they won't get passed out to the distribution. We open up the breakers at the substation to prevent transfer voltages from coming through. So it's a real safety factor. Next, as the mayor had talked about earlier, we're looking to put a bid out for a miscellaneous contract, materials bid. For materials, we're going to need to extend our distribution lines up Ruger to Reeves Lane property. So that's what that one is.
Okay.
The next one is for poles. We need to get some taller poles in a few locations. We have an engineer looking at that right now. And it's a separate bid item because we go to different companies for our poles. And the last one, well, that was the last one. The one before it is a year ago, we bought a natural gas generator. Now we're hoping to get issues resolved with NYSEG that we can get out MLD power. We were looking at now getting that connected in to provide us backup power in emergency situations. Right now, as the mayor can attest to, last December, when we lost power because of that windstorm, because the power lines down, NYSEG power lines down, we went completely dark and we're out for almost 24 hours. So,
Which also resulted in our phone systems being out.
yeah, nobody
That's a
knew
whole
that the
separate
phone
problem.
station for the police and fire were all being routed through our system at Sharon Avenue.
Hmm.
Now we know that. Unfortunately, it was the hard way of finding out. So those are the bids.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, I'll take a motion. Oh, wait,
Yeah, did we? I don't even think we took a motion on that one.
no, we just went straight to discussion.
Yeah, motion. I'll make the motion. please.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Councilor Kelly. Roll call. Director Kelly?
Yeah,
Director Gibbs says yes. Director Talon? Yes. Director Pop?
Yes.
Director Moore?
Yes,
And Director Rosenquist?
Yes.
Okay, that's adopted. Item 5, monthly write-offs, 5A, B, C, and D. Take a motion. Actually, we should have discussion first. Oh, go ahead.
I'll make the motion. And I'd also like to make a motion that we waive the reading.
Waive the
Let
reading,
Bill
thank
go right
you.
into the explanation.
All right, so
just like
we have a
Second.
motion and a second to waive the reading and go straight to discussion, which I should have done for the first one, so I'm sorry.
It's all right. No, it's all
It's all
good.
right.
It's all good.
So Counselor Kelly, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. So discussion. Take us through it, though.
Oh. We're required by the
Monthly
Public Service Commission to write off unpaid bills. It's a state requirement that we're required to do. And this is what we had for last year, for the January, February, March, and April timeframe. The numbers themselves are not bad, considering at that time we were still under the governor's emergency order, which said we could not shut any customer off, even if they didn't pay. A number of them didn't pay at the time, so, but the write-offs are not bad. These represent people who are no longer in the area, and we can't take to court for mediation because they're outside the jurisdiction of the county.
These percentages pretty normal or?
Yeah, they're pretty normal.
Okay.
I mean, if you go to other businesses, they're usually 8 or 9%.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to remember, we're probably talking $1,000. Well, that's what was covered, a $3,683 write-off on $2.6 million of bills. So that's why the percentages are so low.
Okay.
And the Public Service Commission kind of realizes that you're never going to get everybody. So that's sort of built into the rates to a certain degree. So, but it's up to us to try to keep it as low as we can.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll take a motion and a second. Motion. And a second. Roll call, Director Kelly,
Yes,
Director Gibbs says yes, Director Talon? Yes. Director Pop?
Yes.
Director Moore?
yes,
Director Rosenquist? Okay. Item 6, travel requests. Is there a motion to waive the reading?
yes.
All right.
Second.
Thank you.
These are our yearly,
Hold on, hold on.
okay, sorry.
That's okay. All in favor to waive the reading and move to resolution?
Yes.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
These are our travel that we expect for the year. I normally do it at the first meeting of the year. I started this probably about 10 years ago. I mean, Council Kelly probably remembers.
I do.
So I rarely add anything after this. The first two involve our apprentices because they're training to become linemen. The third one there is for our finance officer, Kelly Kluge, to attend the finance workshop in East Syracuse, which they keep her up to date on the regulations of the Public Service Commission and other issues that we need to keep aware of with our bookkeeping. Then I usually attend several different meetings for the MUA and NIPA during the year. And the last one is my engineering license is up for renewal, and I'm required to get 36 credits. So I usually attend this class in order to get it done. It's at no cost to the city, as I pay for the class and the travel. The only thing I ask for is the time off to go and attend it.
Mhm. Okay. Any further
Fun
discussion?
time in Las Vegas. No pictures on social media.
I hope they pick better location than they did 3 years ago. It was like 5 blocks off the
Is that too far away for you?
for the strip. Not when you feel like you're going through a war zone, to be honest, where you see people hanging out in the shadows and stuff.
Not your big, huh?
No,
You did
even
find
though
it- you
even
did
though I
find it
grew
out
up in
here.
New York City,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to wonder. I didn't have any problems But I did have a few concerns a couple of times,
I hear you.
so,
Thank you.
especially when you're by yourself.
Okay, I'll take a motion. Motion from
Second.
Director Pop. Roll call, Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Gibbs says yes, Director Talon, yes. Says McFarland. Bob?
Yes.
Moore, Director Moore?
Yes,
And Director Rosenbaum?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So item number 7 is a discussion of the draft City of Plattsburgh Green Fleet and Equipment Policy. I'm not going to take credit for writing this because I didn't. This was the work of Director Tracy working with Mike Bissett and John Ruff. And the mayor put us all together. These guys made the policy. And I honestly forgot all about it because it was October when you guys had submitted the document to me and it just got buried in email and we were super busy. So when I was appointed as director of MLD, I thought it was a nice fit for us to have a conversation about it and resurrect it. And so my goal was, when I had that meeting with you guys, is to also work with Rochelle Armstrong about reactivating and getting back to the work of the Climate Smart and the clean energy community. So I have some stuff I'm going to share, but I didn't have a chance to get it copied in time. So I'm going to introduce it under new business. I've got some things to share with whole council and some conversation to have about that. So in terms of the Green Fleet, I submitted the document to Nancy Bernstein for review to see what her perspective was, because she's our point of contact for the North Country. And she was very pleased with it. She had some like minor edits, not anything huge or substantial. So what I'm going to do is, and she was editing even into last night, so I didn't have a chance to edit the document with her comments and then resubmit. So I'm going to work on that. And I really would like for that to come before council next Thursday at our regular council meeting, April 7th, for approval. So look for that in your email. Like I said, it's not any huge substantive changes. She just has a few minor like language changes and some comments. And I can't access those comments on my phone. I said this to Bill before everyone got here. I'll make sure to share some of her questions with the council too. Anybody want to start at a particular place or any comments on the document?
I think I think it's completely in line with our approach and what we talked about. It really sets us up for first to take a inventory and understand a baseline where we're at, and some of the goals are very clearly in line with where New York State's also pushing for fleet electrification.
So Bill, would you share with the council the hurdles and the obstacles that you had shared with me when I met with you, so that the council knows what some of the roadblocks might potentially be?
Well, getting the EV vehicles right now may be a certain amount of problem because of the legacy chip issue, where a lot of these vehicles, you can't just get chips for them. As I found out last year when I tried to order one, I'm gonna try again this year. I don't know how long that problem is going to exist, but I'm getting the impression it's going to be with us for quite a while, since most of the chips are made overseas. Now, I've read last week that there's several companies, Intel and a few others, are looking to build plants in the US, but I think only one of them is actually in construction to be done in 2 years, and the rest of them are still in the planning, so you're years away from seeing that. And most of the, one article I read that said 75% of the legacy chips come from Taiwan. So if there's a war in that area, we may lose access to that.
Are there particular materials in these chips that can only be found over there? Or is it
No,
just
that's,
that the factories?
that's where the factories are, the plants.
Okay.
I mean, Silicon Valley, I'm guessing has plenty of silicon, but they ship it over because the labor rates are a lot lower. It's like anything else over there. So, you got chip manufacturing going on in Malaysia, Singapore, South Korea, Taiwan, China. But the bulk of it, apparently, as far as we're concerned with the the EVs and so forth, is done in Taiwan. So, and that may not be the only problem. Lithium for batteries apparently are going to be an issue. 75% of the world's supply comes from China. I read something today that President Biden's talking about making, I forget what they call it, a declaration as an emergency situation for US mines that do have lithium, that they try to increase their output,
Mhm.
but also of other rare materials that they need, like cobalt and nickel. We used to get most of that supply from Russia, but because of the embargoes and so forth, those supplies have been cut off.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's a problem right now, but it's probably going to get worse as time goes along. We'll just have to see.
And where are the lithium mines in this country?
I have no idea. I would
Really
guess
told
they're
me
out,
Arizona.
I would guess they're down south or out west.
We're out west.
Out west?
That one's near Vegas and the other one's in Arizona.
Okay.
We got plenty of lithium. It's very messy to extract it.
Yeah, I think it's strip mining that they use too.
A lot of chemicals.
Yeah, which environmentally is an issue.
Okay.
That's probably the biggest, I mean, I looked at, to get an idea, I looked on some of the automakers, for example, Chevrolet. They only got one EV that they weren't making it up until they started again 2 weeks ago, was the Bolt. They had shut down production because parts, I think, were an issue. GMC has nothing on their website, though they are talking about the Silverado coming out next year. Ford has several different vehicles on there. I mean, some of them wouldn't apply to the city, like the Mustang. I don't think constituents like to see city employees driving Mustangs around here, or Tesla 3s for that matter. I mean, those are still out there. And then there's some, I don't know what you call them, but they're like startup companies for pickup trucks, for example. But they're starting like in a six-figure category, which municipal would not buy those because of the costs. The Ford F-150 electric, assuming we can get it, the starting price is $39,000, and I costed it out to about $45,000, which is not too bad because a regular F-150 comes out a little bit more than that. But the question is, once I put the bids in, do I get anybody to bid on it?
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest challenge right now. The other stuff like the equipment, as far as I know, trying to get electric saws, weed whackers and stuff like that,
Mhm.
the hand tools is not a problem. There are, believe it or not, all electric line trucks. Con Edison bought one for $850,000.
Ooh.
It takes 2 level 2 charges to recharge this puppy. I'm not sure whether they're going to use it because everything in the city, like Manhattan, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, is all underground for the most part, except maybe the back end of Queens, more rural. I'm guessing they're going to use it in Westchester County, but it's a big truck. Green Mountain Power in Vermont bought 2 of them from the same manufacturer. It's based in Canada, and but they got a grant from the Vermont government for like $1.1 billion. So I think the amount of money they have to put in is almost equivalent to buying 2 regular trucks. So they're going to buy 2. I don't know when they're going to get delivered, but they're going to try them out as well. I believe they look like they're off the same design as the Con Edison truck.
Okay.
Some vehicles like fire trucks, police cars, there is no EV models for them. So that if you notice in there, I make a comment if they become available, or ambulances for that matter. I know some communities are using the Bolt, smaller communities, but it's not really designed for police pursuit or anything else for that matter.
Actually, there's Hudson, I think, kind of Hudson or Hudson Valley, they're using Model Ys, the bigger crossover SUV. retrofitted for.
I
police
see
use.
that, I see the bolt being used.
Yeah, and it's kind of similar to in terms of the police pursuit.
Though I do know there are
Steve,
some
yeah.
communities, there was one out west. The police car ran out of energy when it was in pursuit of somebody.
Yeah,
So they had to send out a truck with a generator on it to charge it up. But it happens, I guess.
Yeah, and the cold climate is hard on keeping a charge on those batteries too,
Well,
right?
yes, and you probably, it depends on the driver, the load, the weight, what's in the vehicle. If you're using a pickup, how much you put into it, decreases the mileage. If you've got a lead foot of sorts, yeah, you wear down the batteries more. If you're in hilly terrain, you're gonna wear them down some more. Not, you won't get, if they say it's rated for 250 miles, you may get something considerably less than that.
Mhm.
So yes, that all plays into, the cold plays into it. So you would have to keep them, at least the Plattsburgh, they would have to be kept inside the heated area.
I mean, I don't have a garage. There is a certain percentage of battery loss in a cold climate. I don't drive too fast, but it's manageable. Overall, it's manageable as
Yeah,
long as there's
I
chargers available. That
I would say it's more like around town vehicles, those electric cars right now, not really made for distance at the moment.
I can drive from here to Albany and charge.
Oh, yeah, but a drive to New York, that's another story.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like you have to stop and fill for
Yeah,
gas.
so you couldn't drive all the way to New York on one tank.
Yeah,
I could,
But
could you?
no, I
No,
could.
you gotta stop for gas.
yeah, but the difference in time, I mean, some of the ones I've seen, and I can't address the Tesla. Some of the ones I see take an hour and 20 minutes to recharge for another 250, 300 miles. We're filling it with a gas to give
Yeah.
10, 15 minutes, assuming there's nobody in front of you.
Right.
So I think they're good for around the local area, and what we're probably using in the city is probably not going to be a problem from that standpoint.
I think Mike Bissett also priced out an electric garbage truck,
And then he mentioned-
sidearm loader for $600,000. He worked with it, and then that's a lot. Same platform as the trucks that we purchase now, but obviously a lot more. He talked to somebody down in New York City, same length of use in terms of the drive mileage that we would use. Seemed to be doing fine. They were piloting a garbage truck program, an electric truck program for their garbage collection. But again, it's just the price of it is.
The only thing you can hope
It's up
for is that the state or the federal government steps in with some kind of rebates or something.
And there are some electric vehicles that do have rebates. Tesla is not one of them. On a state level, it does, but on the federal level, it does not. There are electric vehicles that do get both
But
state and federal.
I think in
incentive.
Biden's new budget, assuming it even goes through.
Yeah.
I think he has stuff in there like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
But it's a long way from getting past at this point, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, any other discussion?
And the only other thing I added, the numbers I put in there were based from the climate control that I got off site on the internet for the percentages reduction that they're looking for. So as of last year, those were, I don't think they've changed them yet. There's some discussion, but I don't think they've done that. And as far as I know, they're up to date. As for what the city uses in an amount of gasoline and diesel fuel, I got that from the AED that Mr. Marks puts together for the state. He has one page in there that he's required to list out the amount of gasoline, diesel. I think we're paying too, if we use any. I don't think we do, but he has to list that out there, what the expense was. So that's the source for that information, because he sees all the charges coming in, whether it be credit cards or I think the police are buying directly for their fuel, for their little. Fuel station.
They purchase.
So he sees all that and he's able to, he keeps it accountable somewhere down, I guess in the spreadsheet downstairs. So that's where we got that, that's where I got that information. And he's, right now, as far as I know, he's preparing the AUD for last year. He'd probably be ready probably sometime next month with it. sounds, which is only tomorrow.
That's right.
Yeah, it sounds like a long time away. I just realized it's tomorrow.
Okay, so this was only listed here as board review, not approval of the policy. So
I didn't know what we wanted to do with this
yeah,
tonight.
so I'd like to make the suggested edits that Nancy Bernstein had given me, that, like I said, they're not huge or substantive, and then have it on the council meeting next week for April 7th. So I'll work on that this weekend.
So I'm off down doing a revision, slight revision.
So do we need a motion in a second then? If we're
No,
not,
it's just a discussion. item.
yeah, okay. So it's just
Okay,
a
I'll just,
discussion.
yeah, okay, it's just a discussion item. So
And I'll
we'll
make
take,
sure to share that with you as well. And
I'll take out the rest of that out of there. Okay.
Is your intention to run it through the same group that created this policy?
I can. I was gonna definitely, send it back to the whole governing body. It's not, like I said, the suggestions were not substantive, like, oh, you should
Yeah.
include this and
Yeah.
get rid of that. It was just some minor tweaks, but I can do that. Yep, I can send it to Bill and Mike.
Like I
and
said,
Yeah,
John.
they created it. I think
Yeah.
maybe just run it by them just to, if there's anything else they need to add to it or comment on
let's
it.
put it this way, I created 99%.
Good for you. Thank you. I knew we put the right people on this. for the-
They reviewed what I wrote, and made the changes accordingly. Otherwise, I don't think we'd ever got
Sometimes
that.
you just don't throw your friends on the bus. Teamwork. It's like a college project, right? You got the one person that does all the work and then everybody else puts their name on the side.
Yeah, that's true.
He's used to it. He's used to it.
Very true.
I've seen it done before.
Right on. Thank you. Thanks for
God, it
doing
was
that.
so long ago. I don't tell me. It was only like 10 years ago for you. It seems like a lifetime ago for me.
Oh, no.
Okay, so moving on, is there any old business to be brought before the board? Okay, under new business, I'd like to be able to update the council with some of the research that I've done. So I made this handout. Mike, could you put that on Jamie's place?
Sure.
Can you add this as part of our minutes?
Oh, Bill does his own minutes.
Oh, he
But I
doesn't.
can, yeah, give it to him.
No, here you go.
I do everything but run.
So if you could pass these already down.
Yes, she pays me.
Thank you. So my research started with a phone call to a woman named Myra who heads up the grants for the DEC, because I didn't know anything about the climate smart community or the clean energy community, and I wanted to do some research. And she gave me some resources and some names, and then Rochelle reached out to me, and she has a ton of the institutional knowledge because of the work she already did. And she had all her contacts still down in Albany. So we had a Zoom meeting on Monday with Nancy Bernstein and another woman named Jill. And they are experts on the clean energy community. Nancy is part of ANCA. And we talked about what would it take for us to get this back up and running. So I took notes on the meeting and then I put them together, and I wanted to be able to share these out with the council. Back in 2019, we passed the Climate Smart Pledge and we formed the task force, and Rochelle was named as the coordinator, but nothing's been loaded in the portal. There were actions that were done, but nothing was ever loaded into the portal. So the only thing, if you,
Which part are you
talking about the portal that,
It's a nice setup?
no, it's
Okay.
not NYSERDA. It's I think it's basically through the DEC. It's for the climate smart
Okay,
community.
there's another one on nice setup.
That's right, there is. So
Nice, sorry, nice. So there's two programs, the Clean Energy Community,
Mhm.
which is this one, and the Climate Smart Community, which is the NYSERDA
no, it's the other way.
program.
Climate smart community and clean energy community is
Is it?
in conjunction with NYSERDA. That's
Because
what I
there's two, yeah,
understand.
because I remember there's two different programs, the city. Because Nancy was the one that we engaged with when we started talking about the NYSERDA program.
Right,
whichever-
because
whichever
that's
that is
her
that.
area, is
Okay.
the CEC,
That's
the
the
clean
climate
energy.
smart, that's the climate.
clean
the
energy.
Clean Energy Community, okay, sorry.
No,
Yep.
it's a lot of acronyms and then there's a lot of,
That's
there's a
right.
lot of
That's
crossover.
right. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
remember when I spoke with her, there was no monetary benefit for the city of Plattsburgh to participate in the clean energy community because it was a NYSERDA program.
Mhm.
but I think that may have changed.
It has
since.
changed.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
and so we re-engaged with them to get some information. And so I put together the things that we would need to do to get this back up and running. So the Climate Smart Task Force that was enshrined under a resolution hasn't met literally in years. So that has to be recreated. We would need to pass a new resolution to name the members of the Climate Smart Task Force. So Mayor, I had a meeting yesterday with Rochelle
Mhm.
and Diana Wardell. I think
Yes,
you know,
I know
Teresa-
Diana very well.
She's fantastic. And what we would like to do is contact your office and set up some time to meet.
Yep.
To talk about how we can get this back up and
Yes.
running. Okay,
Yes.
so I'll send out an email and I'll put Rochelle and Diana on it.
Great.
To set that up.
Yep.
We needed to gain access to the portal. So Rochelle and I have access now as of 3/29. We've been added to the portal as people with access. And that's how I found out that the actions that I know we've done have not been loaded in there.
That's for the clean
Climate,
energy.
no, Climate Smart, that CSC.
Because I
Climate
know
Smart.
there's a list of like how many items are on.
Well,
For,
for the, not a nice sort of list you.
right, the
No,
clean
The
energy.
clean energy community, there's not that many, right?
Right.
There's a handful that we started on, like installing EV charging stations.
We got those in.
Right.
I'm gonna be updating the
Yeah.
light one here next week.
Right. Okay,
But the rest of them,
but for the climate smart community, there was like that list.
Yes.
That
And a
was
lot of
there.
these
Yeah.
things we've done already.
I believe so. I believe that is accurate.
And so what my purpose is about the Climate Smart Committee. That's the focus of this document, though there is some crossover.
Yes.
Yes,
Well, yeah, because there are some action items that are overlapped that we can
that's right.
check off on both.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree.
So a newly formed and reactivated task force will need to meet this year with the goal of being considered certified by New York in 2023. So there are 3 certification periods, April, July, and then January. And we're not going to get recertified we're not going to get certified this year. It would be, we'd submit in January of 2023. Then we can start to work towards pursuing grants, things like that. So I put down here on item number 2, what would need to be done to achieve bronze status. Saranac Lake already has. And in fact, I've already looked at the Saranac Lake Climate Smart Committee to see who are the members. And Rochelle and Diana and I talked about really hoping to use that as kind of like a template where it's a broad spectrum.
Yes.
And it's not, I know this was a large concern for you. It's not overburdensome to
Thank you.
to the Saranac Lake employees. And so we're hoping we could model it in the same way. It wouldn't be burdensome to the employees here because it would be a broad scope of representation and we'd have people to do the work.
Counselors, I mean this, I sincerely appreciate that thought and the thoughtfulness that this right here and just the groundwork that's been done to take that burden away from, some of the burden away from,
Mhm.
especially upstairs, because
Yeah.
Ethan's managing hands-on, he was doing a whole bunch of other stuff and we just don't have that resource. So
Right.
I
And
really
in
mean that.
Saranac Lake, they don't have, I think maybe they have one person who is employed by Saranac Lake Proper, and then the rest are just community people.
Yeah, fantastic.
And so I put in section 3, I put some links in here too, so that, you can all find the checklist yourself and you can see the CEC and the CSC crosswalk document. And that's the link down here. So Nancy Bernstein is the CEC coordinator for Clinton County and is the point of contact for us. And she also told us that the DEC, and this is on the very bottom under resources, the DEC is in the process of providing climate smart communities technical support through climate leadership coordinators. A North Country climate leadership coordinator will, and this hopefully be hired because it's pending New York State budget approval. And that would be a resource to help us get organized, keep momentum, and obtain answers. So there's a lot to do. I would love to do this. I wanted to do this in 2019, actually. Rochelle approached me when she was leaving council and asked if I would be willing to take it up. And at the time I was on infrastructure and I was chair of public safety. And I said, Rochelle, I can't. But this seems like a natural fit for this kind of work, being chair of MLD. And I'm very passionate about this. And I really want to get this up and running and get moving.
Let's work on that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, so I'll send out an email on that. I wanted to share a couple of things, other things. The Complete Streets policy that we passed last year is one of the actions on this checklist.
Yes.
And Nancy also sent out to, she shared the email with me, to the city employees in the building inspector's office that there's an energy code enforcement training.
We
Yeah.
went to that. We actually, there was and Nancy will, I think Nancy will also remember that Joe went to a informational meeting, and there was something about the code enforcement that did not quite fit for the city of Plattsburgh. And I think it might have been because we're a NIPA community.
Well, this one she said would work towards, Jill is actually also the one who told me about this. This would help us towards the client, I'm sorry, the CEC, because it's one of those actionable items that gets us points.
It would, yeah, but let's talk to Joe. Let's talk to Joe about it because when he attended it, I'm just pulling, trying not to pull, like, I'm trying not to make stuff up, but I do remember him expressing some concerns about it because of our energy usage
Mhm.
and the source of our energy usage, as well as what it would mean for building code enforcement or the change of building codes. So let's talk to,
Yeah, I believe.
do you remember that?
Well, I know
we talked about it.
CEC, there is a line item in there for points. If you have the building code inspector
Yeah.
attend the course given by NYSERDA, you get X number of points. We're probably eligible for that, but when it comes to the energy, we don't get anything for it because we're using hydro. You've got to be using all solar and wind or in order to be eligible for that. So they're looking at communities that don't have the advantage of hydro. So we can't get any points at all because I asked her, I said, we're 100% hydro, so we're 100% clean.
Yeah, that was one of the issues, but I think this was a change to the building code that required some type of
I think so.
almost wanted to say it was included some type of energy creation or energy generation in the building itself. But let's come back to Joe because he understands what.
Ray, and the email was sent directly to your employees.
Sorry?
That email was sent either from Nancy or from Jill directly to your employees, it was either Joe himself or
Yes.
somebody else. So
Yes.
there's
No,
already
he's
been that connection made recently.
No, he's aware of it, but
Yeah.
what I'm saying is when he attended some presentations or some outline about the building code change, and he had some concern about that being adopted in the city of Plattsburgh.
That's probably putting solar cells on the roof or.
Let's come back to it because I'm telling you, like, there's. I'm aware that it happened,
People won't do it
but
because
it's
it's not cost effective.
I just know that when I spoke to Jill and Nancy, they are very aware that we are hydroelectric
Yes.
and that we're MLD, but they insisted that this would be a good action to take. So I'm just wondering if
Well, in the CEC, I think if you attend the class, you get X number of points because the points add up and then you get a certification from
Yes.
them.
and there's grants available.
Well, if it's based on the, what do you call it? I can't think of the word now. We don't participate in that. We have our own energy conservation program. The investor-owned utilities have a different program where they collect the money and then they send it to Albany, and then Albany parcels it out to the various cities and to NYSERDA then. Special benefit charge, excuse me, that's the word. We don't participate, none of the municipals that are in New York State to have their own electrical municipals have paid to that, it's only the investor owned. So any projects that are derived from that money cannot include us in there. Now, if the money comes from other sources, like the federal government, then yes. But that's usually very limited and stuff. But then you can apply for the grants. And she's probably also talking about the $3 million RGGI grant for the greenhouse gases. But that's $3 million spread among 60 municipals.
No, that didn't come up. There were other things that we talked about. That
Yeah.
specifically didn't come up.
But yeah, if it's based on the special benefit charge, we cannot participate because we don't contribute to that.
No, but that was part of the reason, that was part of the original constraint for us participating in this program and not getting that money back. Because we're not paying into that benefit charge. Energy code enforcement training.
Yes.
That is the training. But there was also, and I gotta talk to Joe about it. I don't know if he attended that. But there was a concern about any code changes regarding energy efficient building code changes that came out of that. So we'll get back with Joe and have that conversation.
Okay.
Yep.
And also, I didn't know if you know about the status of the greenhouse gas grant that we got in 2020 and what the status of that was. We got I think it was a $30,000, was it $20,000 or $30,000 grant to do a greenhouse gas inventory. It was all part of this work that Rochelle
Okay.
started in 2019 and it got stuck in 2020 because of COVID.
I think that went to pay, I think that money, and I'll go back to my notes on this, but I think that money went to offset employee costs for doing a particular inventory department by department.
Could you,
Yeah.
look into that for us?
Yeah, I'll dig into that.
Okay. So that's all the update I had for you on that. Like I said, Mayor, I'll follow up by email with you and Diana and Rochelle.
Thank you.
I'm very excited. I am very excited about this. I've been wanting to work on this for years, but I just didn't have the time and it's just seems like a good place for my energy.
I would like to work on that with you.
Sure. Well, I'm gonna, I guess I'm gonna get in touch with Rochelle and she's got all the contacts and the institutional knowledge. So we'll go from there.
Very good.
Elizabeth, could you share this with us via email?
Yes, I tried to do that and it gave my computer a hernia. So I just decided to do it this way. It's easier.
I can scan it in. I can scan
Sorry.
it. No, that's fine.
All right, I have nothing else for new business. I don't know if anyone else does. I don't see any persons here to address the board.
I guess not.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Mayor, second. And Councilman Bob. Roll call. Director Kelly?
Yeah.
Director Gibbs says yes. Director Talon?
Yes.
Director Bob?
Yes.
Director Moore?
Yes.
Director Rosenblatt?
Yes.
We are adjourned at 6:14.
If you do get a chance to come to